So again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your busy days to attend our webinar. My name is Harrison. I'm an account manager here at STINSON ITS, and I'm joined by Mike Andrews, who is an account manager from Liveable Cities. Liveable Cities is a division of LED roadway lighting and is a manufacturer of wireless streetlight controllers, energy efficient LEDs, and smart city microsensors. Today's webinar, we will be focusing on Liveable Cities' smart microsensor offering. Microsensing is a relatively new concept in the traffic industry, and the idea behind microsensing is having the ability to deploy very low-cost sensors in very high volumes. And this gives municipalities and organizations the opportunity to deploy many more sensors than you traditionally would, which creates new ideas and concepts around how the data may be used in a smart city environment moving forward. Our presentation today is going to focus on the technology behind microsensing and specifically the wide variety of applications which can now be achieved as the technology has matured. We're going to also discuss Liveable Cities' unique toolless installation of these sensors which leverage existing streetlights. And finally, we will review a variety of real-world use cases from our client base. Before we get started, on the right-hand side of your panel, you do have a questions tab. So any questions that come to mind during the presentation, please post them there. At the end, we will address all questions. And again, it would be great if we have a nice list of them waiting when we jump into that section. And one final reminder, we will be having a quiz at some point during the presentation, so pay attention, and the winner will receive a bundle of STINSON ITS prizes. So Mike, if you want to hit the next slide. So if you haven't heard of us before, STINSON ITS, we are a manufacturer, distributor, and systems integrator of intelligent transportation solutions. We work very closely with our clients through every stage of a project's lifecycle, from early design consultations to implementation and long-term operation and maintenance. We fully support our clients with turnkey solutions, and we have been working with Liveable Cities in particular since 2020, and we really have helped collaborate with Liveable Cities and our client base to refine the microsensor offering based on the feedback we've received from our clients, and that's really helped the product mature. And now I want to hand it over to Mike Andrews, the account manager from Liveable Cities, who will be conducting the presentation today on our microsensing technology. So Mike, if you want to go ahead, I'll just turn my camera off so you can have the stage.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Harrison. Just want to start by saying thank you to everybody from the team at STINSON ITS. Our partners were very supportive and very appreciative of that partnership, and also very appreciative to be featured in this webinar today. And also thanks to all the attendees. Looking forward to some questions at the end, and hopefully as we walk through, you'll find this informative. So as Harrison mentioned, we are a Canadian company based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, with our primary manufacturing facility in Amherst, Nova Scotia. And Liveable Cities is a division of LED roadway lighting. LED roadway got started back in 2007 through the design, engineering, and manufacturing of high-efficiency LED streetlights. We deployed our first generation of streetlights in 2011 and have brought 4 generations of streetlights to the market. Where Liveable Cities really came about was in 2019. Through our work in street lighting, we really began to expand our technology suite and the products that we offered based on what we were hearing from our customers in the market. So the Liveable Cities division is really just the division focused around our connected products. So that would be our connected lighting networks and controllers, but even more specifically, our microsensor technology. Also, for any of you joining in the West Coast, we do also have an office, Smart City office in Victoria, BC. So we do span both coasts of Canada to best support our customers. So obviously, cities have this goal, and they're really being put to task by their citizens to focus on making their cities more livable from various perspectives. So just want to touch on the fact that, obviously sensing and data collection, this is not a new thing, especially in the traffic space. Cities have been doing this for decades around air quality, speed, and traffic. Where we feel that microsensing fits into the equation is supporting the ability to easily install these devices to have targeted or a blanket of data points to really support that data collection in a more low cost and really support and augment the other sensing technology that's already out there and has already been invested in by cities and municipalities. So here's our sensor suite. I'll get into each one of these in a little bit more detail shortly, but one thing that I like to highlight here is you'll see the different sensors across the top, but you'll also see that standard black base on the bottom. And what that black base is it's a standard lighting controller. So in addition to the sensing, when you install these on top of your streetlights, this is not going to change the way that those streetlights operate. There's an onboard photo cell that's going to turn those lights on and off just as they would, just as your other streetlights that don't have the sensors. And you're actually going to get a bit more information as a bit of a byproduct to the sensing around power measurement, failure monitoring, and some other street lighting attributes. For some folks more focused on lighting, that's obviously a benefit. But for the folks really, focused on that sensor data, just to call out that this is not going to change the way that your streetlights operate in any way at all. So coming from the street lighting background, how our product's been designed is leveraging this standard socket that's on top of almost every Cobra Head streetlight that's out there. It's a global standard, specifically in North America. Almost every streetlight that's deployed has this standard receptacle. Obviously in the photo, this is one of our fixtures, but it's vendor agnostic. So our sensors can be installed on any streetlight with this standard ANSI receptacle. Again, we're focusing here on LED technology where that receptacle would have a 5 or the latest generation is a 7-pin receptacle. But if you still have the older HPS, those globe orange streetlights, they've got an older version of that receptacle, and we can leverage and install on those streetlights just the same as we do the newer LED technology. And here you can really see how that sensor attaches to that controller. We've got this printed circuit board, so you have the lighting controller on the bottom. There's some communication components in there, and really your sensor just sits on top and is a toolless attachment with that locking ring. Once that locking ring's tightened down, that device is going to maintain its IP66 weather resistant seal. This is a bit of a closer look and just showing the variety of sensors attached to that same base, which is standard across all of our micro sensors. So Harrison touched on this as well, and I think one of the most important things from a hardware perspective is that all these devices install toollessly. They use that receptacle on top of the streetlight, and really from the time the person in the bucket truck leaves the bucket, goes up to install the sensor to when that bucket touches back down, it's about 2 minutes. So it really does support that ease of deployment, the scalability, and being able to go to multiple locations and install these sensors within half a day or a single day. I think in our experience, looking at different sensor locations on different parts of town and obviously taking into account some of the traffic considerations based on locations, we're looking at being able to install 10 to 15 sensors in a morning, and 20, 25, potentially 30 sensors within a single day. So it's relatively low impact from an installation perspective, and you can cover a lot of ground. Also, coming from that street lighting background, all our products as well as our micro sensors are designed and suitable for harsh environments. We're used to developing products that are meant to be outside and meant to be in varying conditions and meant to last for a long time. So they're all IP66 rated, as I mentioned. But also we've had deployments in Northern Ontario, obviously in the East Coast where we are, near to some more salty areas. And we've had some deployments in the UK, we've had some in obviously Southern Ontario, the Southern United States, as well as the Caribbean, and even one in Australia. So they've been through a lot of different weather, varying conditions, and extreme temperatures, and performed, as expected. And really what we're focused on here with the technology is it's a new and scalable way to get previously unattainable insights or more permanent insights at that sort of mid-block or targeted location. Typically, some of the challenges at these locations can be getting 24/7 power. You may be dealing with solar panels or batteries that need to be replaced, or to get that 24/7 power, you also may need to tap into that pole, which compromises that asset, or tap into live existing power. You may have to install a gateway, or you may need to run a fiber connection. So what we're really focused on here is augmenting that sensor technology that's already out there, but being able to deploy, especially in a traffic sense, sensors at the mid-block that can really support the upstream and the downstream from what's already being done and what's been invested in at the intersection, and doing that very easily, taking that streetlight that you've already invested in and now transforming that into a smart city data collection device. So I'll touch on the network here, because we're talking about scalability. That's one of the things that we really want to focus on with our products. And one of the ways, or probably the main way really, that we support that is by also leveraging the existing cellular network for all of the sensors. So most of our sensors operate on the LTE-M network. Our video sensor operates on the LTE network, and if there's any situations where the LTE-M network's not available, all of our other sensors can operate on that LTE network as well. It's just a different device configuration. So really, you don't need to have a congregation of devices. You don't need to have a gateway. You don't need to have a fiber connection. You can have one device deployed on the north side of town to measure air quality. You can have one device deployed on the south side of town to look at traffic patterns and vehicle speed. You can have a camera in one of your main parks, and you can be looking at noise monitoring near to a port or near to a rail yard. And those devices are just going to connect. As soon as they connect into that streetlight socket, they're going to gain that 24/7 power. They're going to connect over that existing cellular network, and they're going to report into the software. And within the software, we have a robust suite available there to analyze that data and report that data. So we've got a lot of data history metrics. You can go back, look at specific periods of time, interrogate over a few days or a week, draw comparisons between historical data and more current data. But what we've also heard through our engagement, especially with our municipal customers, is folks are under-resourced, and it can be challenging to devote a lot of time to learning a new platform. So we've tried to make this as user-friendly and as customizable as possible for the users that want to dive in and really access that software every day and interrogate that data and the data history features, but also for the folks that just want to receive a report that takes all the high points and summarizes that, and they get an automated report or 3 or 4 different reports in their inbox every Monday morning or at the beginning of each month. And what those reports do is they summarize that data into sort of the high points of importance and just provide that information, so folks don't necessarily need to log into the platform, or they can view those reports first in a matter of minutes, and then they can use that as a jumping off point if they do see something that they want to go into the software and they want to look at more closely. The other important thing about our software is, with it, the way it was designed, we see where the industry is going. No one is going to provide all the solutions for any city or any municipality. So we need to be very open and focused on open standards. So within our software, we make all our core APIs available. We have a development sandbox available if folks want to look at integration or data sharing with other softwares that they have, as well as being able to incept data from other platforms or other third-party sensors. And we also subscribe to the TALC consortium which supports interoperability between other CMS that subscribe to that TAL consortium as well. Harrison, before I continue, maybe I'll hand it quickly back to you because I think we've reached our quiz.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so if you want to click one more slide, actually, before I do that, let me just let everybody know. So this is our quiz. First person to answer in the questions tab will get this correct. Livable Cities micro sensors leverage which existing streetlight infrastructure? Again, first person to answer correctly in the questions tab. Now, Mike, if you want to reveal our options. Option A, traffic signals. Option B, pedestrian crossovers. Option C, streetlights. And option D, traffic cabinets. So we're seeing the questions tab populate right now. So let me just take a look and see who was first. Okay, we have the first to answer, I believe, is Bruce. So congratulations, Bruce. Sam, you want to confirm that for me? The pack that he'll be getting, I believe we'll just be shipping it out to you if you want to give us your information for shipping.
Email and ask for your shipping address.
Excellent. Okay, congratulations again, Bruce, on correctly getting that quiz question. And I guess we'll continue with our presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Harrison. Thanks, Sam. And congratulations, Bruce. Looks like a good pack. That Yeti mug looks pretty good. I think I'm going to need to bug Harrison, see if I can get my hands on one of those. So I'll take a minute now and I'll talk about, I'll focus a little bit on each sensor and the different solutions that they provide. The first sensor that we brought to market and one that we've worked on, heavily, especially with Harrison and our partners at STINSON, to further develop since we brought it to the market, is our speed sensor. So it's a Doppler radar-based speed sensor, again, deployed on top of that streetlight. And what it allows you to do is measure average speed, 85th percentile, peak speed, and overspeeding. And I think more recently, actually, we've added 95th percentile to that list as well. And basically, you can put up this device. It's a discrete device. It's not influencing how drivers behave when they're on the roadway. And you can get, a very simple and quick picture of what the vehicle speeds are on that roadway. And within the software, you're going to set a speed limit. So as it's reporting in these speeds, it's going to correlate that with the speed limit in the software. And then it's going to put those speeds into bins. So it'll give you the total count as well of vehicles on that roadway. And then it's going to bin your speed count. So how many vehicles were going 0 to 10 kilometers an hour over limit? How many were going 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and 30 plus? So you can get a good understanding in areas where you may have speeding concerns or want to understand the roadway patterns better, potential citizen complaints. You can put out that device and within a few weeks have some data that you can look at and decide, do we need to intervene in this situation? What's that going to look like? Is it going to be traffic calming measures? Is it going to be a driver feedback sign? Is it going to be targeted enforcement? And then you can still have that discrete sensor out there to undertake that initiative and continue to look at the data as that progresses. So maybe you're going to put out a driver feedback sign. So you can compare that data before and after, but not only the before and after data, but have slightly longer term data that's going to show you how effective is that speed board? When does that speed board start to lose effectiveness and that speeding ramps back up to where it was before? And if that happens, perhaps now we need to look at something more permanent, maybe speed bumps or something like that. So you can really make those data-driven decisions and then not only look at the data that says, yes, we need to do something here, but really tell the full story with the data of if the intervention that's taken place has been successful, and do you want to deploy that in more areas in your community to mitigate issues that you have elsewhere to make sure that your investments are being made based on that persistent data. Air quality, looking at particulate matter, so PM 2.5 and PM 10. This was the second sensor that we brought to market a couple of years ago. So PM 2.5 being those finer particles that get deeper into the lungs, based a lot around gas and diesel combustion. PM 10 more related to the slightly larger particles around construction zones, dust, forest and brush fires, different things like that. And really the focus of these sensors is to augment what's there and allow folks to place these in either targeted areas where they believe there could be an issue, whether again that's near to a construction zone, whether that's near to an industrial area that may be close to a residential area, and really be able to understand what the air quality is in that area. There are a lot of provincially funded and federally funded, and also some municipally funded larger air quality stations, and those are incredible devices. They also report weather. They do a lot of different things. They report multiple air quality metrics, but it can be challenging to go drop one of those in a specific area to look at targeted air quality. So really where we see the value in these sensors is being able to create your own scalable air quality network to target those areas, but also establish a baseline of what does the air quality look like in your community and what do those trends look like. And in the software, we have some great visualization tools, some heat map tools, where you can go in and you can look at not only what the air quality is, but also how that relates to the EPA. So those standard EPA measurement bins, you know, good, unhealthy for sensitive persons. So the heat map is going to visualize all that and give you some color coordination, so you can actually see where that air quality falls, and maybe there's some microclimates, maybe there's some specific areas that you want to look at addressing through different means. The noise sensor, very similar to the air quality sensor, really looking at those targeted areas. We have a port customer that's actually deployed these to look at sound near to the port, not quite in the port, but in those residential areas that are near to the port that could be affected by the noise that's created from the port or the grain elevator that's near to the port. And really how the sensor works is it's just sampling constantly and reporting in lowest, peak, and average sound levels. And how it works also is it's based on sound pressure. So what it's doing is it's incepting the airflow and it's measuring that pressure, and then it's correlating that to a decibel reading. The reason I bring that up is because a lot of times we get questioned, is it a microphone? It's not a microphone. It's based on a pressure level. But what you have the ability to do in the software as well is you can set a threshold. So if you have a specific noise level that you expect that within that area, that it's going to be within that level, and you want to target noises that are beyond that, you can easily look at that. You can set the threshold at 85 decibels, 100 decibels, and then you can visually see in the software where your peaks are in that data graph that exceed that, and then you can interrogate those further to look at, is this a one-off? Is this a sustained noise for a couple of hours? And then really understand what those impacts are, and ideally correlate those back to situations, whether it be construction, whether it be specific activities at that port or in that rail yard, and look at what the impacts are on the community. Or you can sort of put out a few as a blanket network to look at maybe how your traffic patterns affect the noise in the community. Or perhaps there's a large highway that goes through the community. So how does that affect the nearby residential areas? Are there citizen complaints? So we can focus on that as well. And the final sensor that I'll focus on here is our newest sensor, and it's our video sensor, our camera sensor. So as a phase one, it's really just a single or a dual lens 1080p camera that's easily deployable on top of a streetlight. What that allows you to do is it has onboard storage. So there's an SD card on board the camera, and it's constantly recording onto itself. And we have different storage availabilities. We've got 6 days, 12 days, 24 days, and that would be the dual lens camera at 1080p at 1 megabyte per second. So what it allows you to very easily do is deploy these in areas where you want to look at specific periods of time, perhaps for traffic, or perhaps you want to be able to look at road conditions. Also, you can really target areas like public parks or works yards or areas where there's theft or there's vandalism issues. So the reason why I present sort of the phase 1 is to move on a little bit and talk about where we're going as a phase 2 with the camera. And where that's going is looking at higher accuracy traffic counting and also characterization of vehicles. So when I say higher accuracy, we have our speed sensor. It's great for baseline counts on 2-lane, 3-lane roadways. But really what we've heard from the folks in the traffic industry, like our partners at STINSON, as well as our customers, is they want those by lane counts. They want those characterization of vehicles. So the next step for the camera that we'll be releasing later this year is going to be onboard analytics that report those traffic counts and characterizations by lane, and they report those back into our SmartLink software platform to feed into that standard reporting. Separately to that, also looking at intervention. So intervening in some of those vandalism concerns or some of those works yard thefts. Passive monitoring is great. It's very suitable for some privacy conscious areas because you're only going back and pulling that video when it's necessary. But we also want to get to a point where that camera can provide a notification if someone is in an area that they shouldn't be in at a time that no one's expected to be in there. And then they can send a real-time alert back through an email with a link to access the video, so somebody on a security team or a compliance office team, they can look at that and they can immediately say in real time, oh, we're doing, you know, maintenance after hours tonight, no big deal. Or they can say, oh, somebody's breaking into our works yard or somebody's in this public park and they're causing an issue and we want to intervene in that in more real time. So trying to give you where we are today as well as where we're going. One thing I think I skipped over is, although these are cellular devices, you can still stream from the camera, but we do focus that on shorter segments of streaming. So not only can you do the passive monitoring and pull that video back into the VMS to view it after an incident, you can jump in and you can get a quick understanding, a quick stream of what's happening at that location at that time. Right now it's about a minute, but we can be flexible on that a little bit depending on what the use case is for each customer. This is just showing really that dual field of view. So it's up on top of that Streetlight and you're getting two lenses, one to the left and one to the right. As well, we also have a power tap receptacle driven by our customer demands of, can we put two sensors in one location? Or I don't have a Streetlight, I have a floodlight in my park, but it has a NEMA receptacle, but it's pitched down. So where the power tap receptacle is really beneficial is those applications where you want to co-locate a camera and a speed sensor or a camera and a noise sensor, as well as some of those applications where you have that street light or that NEMA receptacle available, but you really want to get a more targeted field of view to be able to get exactly the video that you need from, you know, the park that's kind of just off to the side of the pole, and that's where all the vandalism is happening. So I do have a couple quick video samples just to give you folks an idea of the quality. I do apologize, this doesn't really come through as cleanly. It's probably a little bit choppy when it's shared over the webinar, but we can provide samples after the fact. You can reach out to Harrison for that. But that's at one of the deployments that we have in downtown Toronto. You can see this postal worker here doing some jaywalking. And then just to give you a contrast, so that will be one lens of the camera, and then this would be that other side of that camera, and obviously want to show you the contrast between daytime and nighttime and how the street lights and the ambient lighting can kind of affect those fields of view. So finally, I want to leave lots of time for questions, but I just wanted to go through a few use cases and some real world uses that we've had some customers using the sensors for. Looking at the speed sensors, using those for speed and traffic analytics, but really focused around traffic calming initiatives within the community. So this specific customer had, multiple areas where they're looking at traffic calming. A few of them had already been implemented. A few of them have not yet been implemented, so they were looking for some validation. So really targeting the speed sensors in those areas. And the data collected by the sensors is going to help that community validate the requirement and also measure the effectiveness of the traffic calming solutions. So here's a couple snippets of reports. This top one is from a single device where they have yet to deploy that traffic calming initiative. So here's those bins I was talking about. You've got your standard vehicle count here. That vehicle count does take into account approaching and receding vehicles from the sensor. So it's a total vehicle count on that roadway. And then it's giving you the current measurement period. So this is a week, the previous measurement period, so the previous week, and it's going to give you some trends. But really what we see here is at this location, 100% for them, that traffic calming is validated. They need to undertake that initiative because they have a lot of people in that 0 to 10 speed limit, but also a fair number of people in that 10 to 20. And obviously, every kilometer that increases, things get more and more dangerous for pedestrians and road users. The bottom snippet here just shows all of those 5 devices we've deployed. So obviously you see the top device here is the worst culprit for speeding, but these devices lower down here, these are the areas where they've already taken those traffic calming initiatives, and they're really using the sensors to validate that that the implementation has done what it's supposed to, and continue to monitor that over time as these top ones here that are the speeding culprits. As they undertake those initiatives, the sensors will maintain there, so they have a really good picture of the before and after data to validate that they've addressed those concerns, and those speeds are reduced ongoing. A very interesting one that we've been lucky enough to be involved in Southern Ontario is ambient noise monitoring. So there's a community that's rerouting their truck works. They're actually making a ban downtown, and they're implementing some routing. So they've put some signage up. They're in process of doing that now. But what they've done is they've deployed our noise sensors on the existing truck routes and on the new truck routes to really look at the impacts and be able to measure the before, the during, and the after periods to report on what the noise impacts to both of those locations are. I believe they're doing air quality measurements and other traffic as well. So it'll be a really holistic approach. But what they've done is they've used our noise sensors to easily deploy on the streetlights to get that before, during, and after monitoring to really assess the impact. And hopefully we're going to see some positive change in the ambient noise in that downtown core when they reroute the trucking. And also, they want to be mindful of those new routes to understand what the impact is on those routes. And I just again have another snippet from that reporting. You can see the different thresholds that can be set there. So you could set that to 100, you could set it to 75, and then it's going to really quickly give you that minimum, maximum, and average decibel reading for each location. I've left out the addresses, but there would be a civic address here to make it really simple to view. And what it's going to do is, you're just going to get this report every week or every month, and you can really see the high points of where things sit and how they've changed from the last period. Additionally, per sensor, we can have specific reports that just focus on one sensor, and this is one of those graphs. Apologize for the yellow. It says 75.2 decibels there, and also it's going to tell you from this period to the previous period, is that trending up or is that trending down? So you can really easily compare week over week or month over month to understand how things have changed. And this is all through the reporting. So you can access this in the software, you can have this emailed to you on a regular basis. The final use case that I just want to talk about very quickly, because I mentioned it a lot, is parks. So we have a customer out in our East Coast. They have a couple floodlights at these parks. So they've employed the camera, the power tap receptacle, to easily deploy cameras for monitoring of the park, passive monitoring. So as they have issues, and unfortunately they've already had multiple issues and had to rebuild segments of this park. So now they want to take a really proactive approach, as well as a deterrence approach. So I believe there's some signage set up there as well. as a deterrent, but also the cameras to be able to go back and call on that video and be able to understand if an incident's happened, what exactly happened, how many people were there, how long they were there for, some different things like that. And where the camera really fit in was, although it's around that passive monitoring approach, it was very simple and easy to deploy. They didn't have any fiber, so they would have had to run fiber. They might have needed a separate pole, different things like that. So for this specific customer, it was a really good solution for them to very quickly get a camera up and installed in that park for that monitoring and that deterrence purpose. And with that, looking forward to some questions. Thanks very much, and I'll hand it back to you, Harrison.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. It was a great presentation. So yeah, now I would like to just field any questions. Again, if you do have a question, please input it into the questions tab, and we'll start looking at those right now. So our first question today, how do you connect to existing adaptive controls already occupying the 7-pin base? So Mike, I'm not sure if you have any experience with that, but if you could help us out here, it'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's a great question. And one thing that I didn't touch on when I was talking about the power tap, one of the other main drivers for the power tap solution was customers that want to deploy our smart city micro sensors, but they have taken that next step in technology beyond LEDs, and they have deployed that intelligent lighting control system, which is going to occupy that NEMA receptacle on every street light. So our solution to that typically would be that power tap. So with that tap, you would just remove that controller, connect the power tap. It has a length of pre-wired cable. It has a second NEMA that's a pole mount receptacle. So it goes right onto that pole. We have a kit that comes with it for band strapping. So it's still not intrusive. You're not drilling into the pole. But then you would just affix that controller back on top of the power tap. You have all your lighting control elements for your network. You're still connected with that street light. And then you have the extension of that onto the power tap receptacle where you can still easily deploy your smart city sensors.
Excellent. Excellent. So the power tap is the solution for that question. Get both receptacles. Okay, our next question. So the speed sensor, can the speed sensor count traffic? And I do know the answer to this one, but I think it'd be best if the expert gives us the answer here, Mike.
You're just as much of an expert as me at this point, Harrison. But yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about it. So yeah, the speed sensor does count traffic. It's a basic traffic counter. If it's going to measure speed, we've got to put a count to that so that that folks can understand what the volume is of speeders on that roadway. So it's a basic counting device. We've had a third-party engineering company do a test on it for accuracy. So on that, that scenario where typically it's deployed, which is going to be that 2-lane road, which is going to be residential or arterial, we've seen about an 87% accuracy on that sensor for traffic counting. So from a lot of folks, we've heard that they don't have any counting solutions, or their counting solutions are a bit more expensive. So it suits well in those areas, as well as to give a picture of what the speeding is. But also, we've seen that gap of needing that higher accuracy, needing that vehicle classification, which is where we've really pushed the camera forward as a more intuitive and all-encompassing solution for those mid-block traffic counts and characterization and analytics. Hopefully.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that's great. And, yeah, no, this is something we've been working on with Liveable Cities and Mike specifically to, deploy those initial radar sensors, evaluate the accuracy, and just confirm that we're providing the client accurate count data, accurate speed data. So we've done our homework on this, and it's been a bit of a work in progress, but it's looking great now. Great. Our next question is related to the camera sensor, and it states, is the resolution of the camera sensor suitable for law enforcement and investigations? Are any law enforcement agencies currently using them?
Great question. So we are piloting with a couple of different law enforcement organizations. I think it remains to be seen. We haven't had anyone take the video and take that to a court of law at this point. I think where we're more focused with this first iteration of the camera, this comes from some discussions with different privacy commissions within our neck of the woods in the east coast of Canada. That passive monitoring, that 1080p resolution, it's good enough, and it's on top of a streetlight. So it's good enough that you're going to understand make and model of a car. You're going to be able to see some defining features about a person, such as clothing type or what they were wearing, a certain hat, what they're up to in that area. It is not to the point of facial recognition or license plate recognition technology. From a privacy perspective, that checks off a lot of boxes for our camera solution to be an easily deployable solution to support law enforcement and support municipalities to collect that video and also use it as a deterrent in that area, and something that can be quick and easily deployed. So I'm sorry, I'm not really giving you a straight answer. We haven't had anyone try to do it yet. It wasn't designed by us to be something that's people are going to be pulling video and they're going to be taking that to court. But if things change, I mean, we would incorporate that. But I think really the focus of the camera sensor is the ease of deployment and supporting maybe some other augmentative technologies that folks would be taking, into the courts. But we are piloting with a few law enforcement agencies. A little bit early on, but it's a totally different and new market for us. So we're really excited to kind of learn how they use it and what its benefits are in that sector.
Yeah, excellent answer. Excellent. And I just wanted to say, I know you hammered the point home already, but the big benefit of having that camera is not having to all the associated infrastructure with a typical CCTV camera. Pulling the power, pulling fiber back to the camera, everything is integrated all in one to that sensor package. Okay, our next question, are there any alternative power options? Now, I believe the power tap, as you mentioned earlier, was a great solution for alternative power. And if you want to maybe touch on that a little bit more, Mike.
Yeah, so I think today we are very focused on the deployment on that streetlight. That streetlight typically has 24/7 power, but we do have, I think, at the bottom of that power tap, and that power tap is still tapping off the streetlight. It's still utilizing that power, but what we do have is just a pole mount receptacle. So if you had a temporary trailer or something like that you move around to move around video or move around sensors, and you have an availability of 120 volt power, you could easily take one of those pole mount receptacles. We have those available, and an electrician could wire into that from the power at that location, mount that on a pole or mount it to a trailer, mount it to a building, different things like that. You would need that 120 VAC power available. All the sensors operate within the 120 to 277 volt range. The camera, I believe, is 120 to 480. We can share spec sheets on that after the fact if folks need it. We are actively looking at a DC powered option. It's come up a fair amount, so it's something that our R&D team has looked at. It's not something that we're bringing to market next week, but we've heard that from a couple customers, and we've sort of incepted that, and we've looked into it. But right now we are focused around that 120 volt, typically installed on a streetlight. But if you've got 120 volts and you've got an electrician that can easily wire up one of those pole mount or building mount receptacles, we have that solution. We can provide that as well with the sensors to support that.
Excellent. That's a great answer, Mike. Another question here is regarding the cellular data plan for the sensors. Do we have to set up a cellular service plan for each sensor installed? So I can speak briefly on this. Each sensor provided by Liveable Cities, no matter what type you're ordering, come integrated with their own cellular modem, SIM card, and data plan. So, essentially when you're purchasing a sensor from us through Liveable Cities, the pricing is broken down into two components: a small upfront fee for the hardware, and then a yearly ongoing fee, which covers cellular service, access to Liveable Cities SmartLinks platform. It's a cloud-based, browser-based platform where all data, diagnostics, information regarding your sensors is located. And on top of that, you also have access to a warranty program with this service plan, which entitles you to hardware replacements in case a sensor is not functional or something happens, it gets struck by lightning. But again, Mike, maybe you can talk a bit more on the warranty plan. I don't want to say anything that's not correct there. But essentially, you won't have to worry about procuring your own cellular service for each sensor. That's all coming as a turnkey solution from us.
No, that's exactly right, Harrison. You really hit the nail on the head. So we're trying to be as user friendly and as easy as possible. So like Harrison mentioned, there's an upfront fee for the hardware. You capitalize that, you own that, and then there's an ongoing service plan fee, and it covers everything you mentioned. It covers the cellular data plan, access to the software, technical support, any training that's required to get up and running. If there's requests to assist on site selection or picking specific streetlights that would be best for the sensor to operate, we support on all that with our partners at STINSON. And yeah, anything warrantable that falls within that service plan is covering your warranty as well. So rather than saying you have a 1-year warranty or a 2-year or 5-year warranty when you buy that piece of hardware, as long as you're subscribed to that service plan, your device effectively maintains its warranty. So again, trying to be as simple and as inclusive and turnkey as possible to make things really easy.
Yeah. This is, again, it's really beneficial for those municipalities who have a tight budget, who want a long-term counting solution or want some remote monitoring capabilities, air quality management, and they just don't have the upfront budget to procure a large scale solution. So this makes it very affordable, very easy to use, and very user-friendly through our support network. Next question. Well, what is the rough cost per sensor? I will reach out and provide pricing information after this presentation. Samantha, I think you wanted to mention that we are a little bit over time, so in case you do have to go, I will follow up with every attendee here, do my best to. And if you need to leave right now, feel free to leave, don't feel bad. We will have a recording of this on YouTube, and we'll recirculate a recording to every attendee on this call. The next question, does your equipment work where there is no cellular connection? So I'm assuming this means if there is no cellular service in the area. Mike, if you want to field that one?
Yeah, definitely. So it is, the sensors are focused around that cellular connection. We are familiar with other networks, some of our connected lighting networks that we have out there. They operate on a mesh network that's specific to connected lighting, not necessarily for the sensors. So we are very aware of other network options, but as it stands today, we are focused around that cellular connection. So it does pain me to say this a little bit, but if there's an issue and there's no cellular connection available in that area, it would be a challenge to deploy sensors there. One thing I will say specific to the camera is it does have that onboard SD card. So typically the focus here is you put that device up, it has onboard storage, and you're pulling that video over the cellular network as you need it. If there's an incident or if you need to check on something or what have you, there is an option for a technician to go back in that bucket truck and have a replacement SD card, unscrew that locking ring, take that camera piece off, and they can access the card from there. They can pop that card out if they're trained to do so. I wouldn't say we make it overly easy, but it can definitely be done. And they could pull that SD, and then that would have that full range of video from whether it's 6 days or 12 days. So in a remote area, you could deploy a camera device as long as you have a plan or something, or maybe you wait for a complaint from a citizen and you could go back and get the full video off that device. You would just need some support from us and the folks at Stinson to access what's on that SD card, because like I said, it's totally possible, but it's just requires some input from us. We don't want to make it too easy.
Excellent answer. Next, we have a lot of questions today, which is great. I love seeing all these questions and show up during the webinar. The next question is, does the speed sensor classify types of traffic, example trucks versus passenger cars? Mike, if you want to field this one, I know you talked about it briefly, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the radar, the speed sensor is a Doppler radar, and the way it operates, it does not provide classification of vehicles, unfortunately. It's just a baseline counter of those vehicles. It can differentiate between whether those vehicles are approaching or receding that sensor, so it does look at both directions of travel, but it's not providing any classifications. That's where we saw that gap and wanted to improve upon that with the analytics that we're going to be offering with the camera. So with the camera sensor, you would get that classification, and you'd also get that count, by lane. So if it's on a 3-lane, 4-lane roadway, you would get, counts per lane, and you would get different vehicle classifications as well.
Excellent. Another question. Next question regarding the video sensor and data in general. Is data or video shared or sold to other parties? I don't believe so, but if you could just confirm for us, Mike.
Yeah, no, that's confirmed. So we're always interested in having any conversations with municipalities that want, or other organizations that want to take advantage of that data and how that could work. But as we operate today, and this is what we've heard from specifically our municipal customers, is that data is theirs. They want to own that data, so that data belongs to them. It's a cloud-hosted software, as you mentioned, Harrison. One thing I don't think I did touch on is that we use Microsoft Azure hosting facilities within Canada. So none of that data leaves Canada. We know that's very important. That's important to us. We know that's important to folks that use this. So all that data remains in Canada. And there's no sharing or monetization of that data at this point from us. That belongs to the user, belongs to the customer as part of that service plan model. And with the video, really, it's other than for technical support on our end, it's the customer that's accessing the video, the customer that's pulling it, and through the nature of the VMS as it stands today. They pull that video and it's going to live on the cloud for 30 days within the VMS, and then it's gonna go away. So we really leave it up to the customer. If there's a segment of that video that you pull and you need to retain that for a longer period of time, and we'll show you how to do it, you can download that video and you can store that locally based on your own storage requirements within the city, however you deem fit.
Excellent, yes. Another question, can the software be bought outright and loaded onto municipal servers? Does that ever happen with a client, Mike? If that's possible?
So yeah, we do support on-premise through our work with our lighting customers. We do have some lighting customers that do have a requirement for on-premise software solutions. So that is an option. Typically, most folks are going cloud hosted these days, and even some of our on-prem are shifting to a more cloud hosted solution. But definitely, if that's a hard requirement, we want to be able to work with our customers. So we have the ability to do it. We would just look at it on a case by case or project by project basis. But yeah, that's a long answer to yes, we do that. Typically, it's mostly cloud hosted, but yeah, we have the ability to support on-premise software.
Excellent. The final question, is weather condition a concern for your devices? I guess it really depends on which device, but maybe I really think it's just related to the radar and the video sensor. So if you want to just field that one, if you noticed any issues with weather in the sensors.
Yeah, absolutely. So start with the speed sensor, the radar. Yeah, it's a Doppler radar, so it is going to be affected by certain weather events. And the way that we handle that within the software is we actually report in, and we include it in all the reports. We report in what we call a weather confidence level. And basically what the sensor is doing is, as it's sampling, as it's collecting data, it maintains a confidence level. And when it drops below a set threshold that we set within the back end of the software, it'll drop out and it'll stop reporting so that you mitigate any of those erroneous data points. And then in your reports or in your data history, we make that weather confidence totally available. It's available in all the reports as a percentage, so you can really put a lens on the data that you're looking at based on how the weather may or may not have impacted the sensors. Unless you have like a very long major storm or anything, though, it's usually just those beginnings of when it starts to rain or when it starts to snow, different things like that. But yeah, there is an effect there, and we need to be cognizant of that. And I think we do a good job of framing that in the report so folks can really understand the data and again put that lens on it when they're looking at it. From a video perspective, not overly. We have seen a few situations in Halifax, of course, where everything sort of comes in sideways. I think I've only seen once. We had a snowstorm, and the snow was kind of coming in at that sideways angle. One of the two lenses on the camera, it was just hitting it right on the camera, so there was some diminished visibility during that time period. The other lens of the camera, totally fine. In rain, we've seen it perform quite well, but I'll also say it's a newer product, so I think the more devices we get out there and the more specific situations, we'll understand if there are other impacts. But overall, to date, other than a few small instances, performs quite well in the weather and maintains its video and its resolution.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks again, Mike. It was a great presentation. I appreciate all your thoughtful answers on these questions too. It's always great to have the manufacturer join for a presentation like this, and I think this went over very well. I just want to add one final remark before we end the presentation today, and it's that we do support pilot deployments for this technology, limited scale for a limited duration. Typically 3 months is our average duration for a pilot deployment, and this essentially gives your municipality an opportunity to try the technology out before committing to a larger scale purchase. There's no commitment to our pilots, but we do request that you give the technology a fair shot. You try it out, use the platform, and we can support different sensors with these pilot deployments too. So if you want to try out a video sensor, if you want to try out a few of the radar sensors or an air quality sensor, we're certainly capable of supplying those for your municipality for a limited duration as a try before you buy type model. So again, I wanted to thank everybody for staying with us today. I know we went a little bit over our scheduled duration, but that's perfectly fine. I'm very happy to continue these discussions with you one-on-one, or to host a deeper demonstration on the software. That's very popular as well with some of our pilot customers and some of our long-term customers who have been using the system, is that they'd like to see the demonstration before even moving forward. So again, if you're interested, please reach out to me. My email is harrison@stinson.ca, and I will make a note to send this presentation out to everyone who attended, and get back to anybody with any questions you may have after the fact. So thank you very much again for joining us, and thank you very much to Mike Andrews for a great presentation. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye now.